leaders really need to work. In being a student myself, I also can empathize with that younger generation, being able to bring not only the energy, but the focus that we need to be sure and get done what we need to get done. You know, I'm running on a basis of economy, education, environment, healthcare, and infrastructure. It's a very broad platform. And what's really pushed me is that there were a couple of surveys and a couple of indicators that went out in 2017, which is some of the most recent information, including census information, where 36.4% of students, so kids under the age of 18, were experiencing poverty. And that's not just students, that's extending beyond students into the entirety of our communities to where we've gotten used to living in poverty. And now granted, I'm not gonna say as a county commissioner, I can fix all the problems, but I can work towards achieving them by bringing our communities together. And that's one thing that's really been missing from our communities, from the constituencies, is that they feel not necessarily left out or precluded, but they feel like there's more to be done in the sense of bringing our community together in that homogenous blending. And you know, I truly think that as an individual who is a student and literally studies for a living, I study nearly 8 hours a day. At this point, being a junior at the University of New Mexico, seeking my bachelor's degree in political science with a minor in Chicano studies. You know, that bachelor's is with an affect in economics. So I really do understand the complexities of rural New Mexico economics, especially when it comes to the incentive structures out here and what we're trying to induce to help build this sustainable economic development. Additionally, I understand what it means to bring the community together, because in having decided to run since October, I have really had the opportunity to do that, to really bring this community together. My first event drew out 33 different members from the community, ranging from Pajique all the way down to Willard and some even into Corona. With that, I had 22 people out of that group sign up to be volunteers. I further moved and the same numbers increased in Mountain Air, and I was getting ready to host another event, and we ended up in COVID-19. So, you know, that didn't really get to come to fruition, but bringing the community together and really putting my brain and my mouth where it belongs, representing the people and bringing this hope to our communities, is why I think that I'm definitely the qualified and capable person to execute this office. And on a last note, there was one quote that came upon my phone right before I came to the decision to actually. Thank you, Laura.
All right, we'll have time to get into some of that stuff as we go along. Just to let both of you know, it looks to me like we have a live stream on Facebook, through YouTube, through Zoom. So if people are watching on that live stream and you want to put questions to the candidates, I will do my best to get those in. I also have some prepared for them. So we'll be taking a look at that. And let's go ahead and go. I'm going to quit worrying if we're streaming or not, and we'll just go. So let's see, Javier, you started out the last time. So this time, Augustine, I'm going to have you start. And why don't we do 2 minutes? And if you can keep them shorter, feel free. But we'll give you a little bit more time because we've got some substantive issues. So I have a sort of a pair of questions, but we'll do them one at a time. So first question is, what is the biggest challenge that Torrance County is facing right now? And as a commissioner, what would you do about it? So in your answer, I'd like you to be specific and not, not give us a lot of pie in the sky stuff, but let's talk practical. Here's what I can do as a county commissioner about this. So what do you feel like, Augustine, is the biggest challenge that the county has got? And if you get elected, what would you do about it?
So we have kind of two issues that work in unison as two of the biggest issues that I've experienced, and they're economy and water usage. So making sure that from the county commission's end, we're promoting water conscious businesses. So, like pop-up businesses, for example, post COVID-19, we're going to see that those are really where economy is for the majority of the country, because it's helping us combat that public health standpoint, in addition to conserving water. And in addition to that, from the county commission side, I'm going to be promoting and working to use essentially like gray water, reusing our water, so that way we're not using fresh water to water at home gardens and to use that excess water, if you know what I mean. because I truly think that to build economic development, we have to work consciously in who we induce to bring here. But in addition to that, I think we need to be conscious as to what practices we're using. And those practices do extend beyond, what we conceive as some of the industries here, agriculture and other things like that. And so for me, I definitely think working towards building an economy off of water conscious business is the two biggest issues for me here in Torrance County, from what I've heard in the community.
Okay, all right. So that was just about a minute, just to, let both of you guys know. That seemed like a pretty good length of time. Javier, would you agree?
You pitch and I'll do my best.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it in a minute then, because that seemed longer than I thought it would. So same question to you. What's the biggest challenge facing Torrance County? Now, because you are an incumbent, you're in a different position. So what I'd like you to talk about is what you have done, not what you would do, but give us real specifics on, what you feel like is the biggest challenge that our county faces and what specific actions you yourself have taken. Okay, so go ahead.
So I would say that it's difficult to choose one issue, but an issue that I feel strongly about is economic development. So when we talk about economic development in the 3rd District, we have to understand that much of what regulates drawing businesses to Torrance County is regulated through the LIDA Act, through our contract with the VITA. And so economic development is an issue that rests on various different pillars. But from the county's perspective, I have felt like economic development should be a self-empowering mechanism in the 3rd District. And so the very first thing that I wanted to look at is, what are the communities interested? What are the land grants interested in? What are the municipalities interested in? In other words, what is the vision that they might have for themselves, and how can we assist in that? And how can we facilitate discussions to identify project goals, to identify strategies that might be beneficial? And so in bringing the communities together, we began to discuss, we began to have informal meetings, the mayors, school districts, as well as the land grants. We would come together and meet and talk about what we might do. And what was very astonishing
All right,
from the get-go was the lack of planning.
Javier. I want to try to keep it pretty equal between you guys so that, but I would like to carry forward as a little bit more of a discussion maybe, and less of a, I'm just.
Pardon me, Leora, if you wouldn't mind, I didn't get even close. If there's any way that you could give me 15 seconds to sum it up.
Do it.
I think I probably should have done a better job of summarizing.
Go ahead.
That's all right. Okay, so economic development, what I have done, what I've tried to do, I believe as a region, we have put together funding to do a plan, an economic development plan for Southern Torrance County that includes the land grants to municipalities as well as Encino. We've also put together the Estancia Valley Heritage Center Committee, which is also the member organizations are the land grants as well as the municipalities and the county. And that is an economic development stratagem that revolves around tourism and the National Park Service traffic that we have through the county.
Okay.
That's economic development. The other issue is going to be emergency services, and we've put together an EMS station over in Willard, which is currently staffed by 1 full-time position and 2 part-time positions. Those would be kind of 2 issues that I've always felt pretty passionate about.
Okay. All right, Augustine, do you want to say anything else? I think we ended up with about a 2-to-1 ratio there. I want to be fair as much as we can on the time.
Really appreciate that, Leota. Fairness is definitely something that I appreciate and I've always appreciated from the independent. And so, just kind of a quick summary over my view of economic development is that we have to be super conscious about post-COVID-19 because our economics throughout this country, whether it's here at the county level or at the federal level, is going to be completely different. Well, I shouldn't say completely, but it is going to be different. And I think that we really need to be working on investing in sustainable local business, so our Main Street businesses, rather than trying to bring in large corporations. We've seen what happened with Google and Millardi, it leaving, CNM having left, I believe was out here, and also the technical college, the trade school, excuse me. And so I definitely like to see a lot more economic development invested here in our sustainable Main Street businesses, and I'm committed to that. I got the endorsement from the Working Families Party over that point, and over the fact that I do work for our working class citizens. That's about where I would like to sum that up.
Okay. All right. So I want to flip that question on its head and ask you guys, what do you feel like the biggest opportunities that Torrance County has right now? What are the biggest opportunities there? And as a county commissioner, what would you do about those opportunities that you see? So based on that last one, I'm going to go back to 2 minutes. And I'm going to ask you when the chime goes to be ready to zip it up. So Javier, let's start with you this time. And so what is the biggest opportunity that Torrance County has got right now? And what, as a county commissioner, what are you doing about it?
I think we have two major opportunities. One is tied to people. So I guess the great intangible asset that any organization leverages is tied to its personnel resources, the quality of the people that it has in service. And so that's one, but the other is also very much tangible, and that is funding. So our renewable energy pill program will pay this year about $2.5 million. That is a tremendous boost. That could give a tremendous boost to the county to invest in many different things. I think we have an opportunity to cast a very wide net and make advancements on various issues, everything from emergency services to economic development. But I think that that will complement very well the quality of the people that we have in office. I see, I feel like in the 3rd district, we have presidents and mayors all across municipal lines that are willing to work together. And I know are willing to work together because I've seen it. And I think that is going to be a tremendous boost and a tremendous change from the past, where I think piecemeal efforts have yielded very limited results. So I see the county standing on the cusp of great advancements. Of course, one never knows what challenges can arise that may swallow resources. But I think that we stand on the cusp of tremendous opportunity. And I certainly look forward to strengthening our ties, our coalition, as I've mentioned before, to make sure that we continue to invest in these issues and kind of translate the plans that we're putting into place into action.
All right, thank you. I was seeing the same question for you. What is the biggest opportunity that Torrance County has right now? And if you're elected to the county commission, what would you do about it?
So, in a previous position, I was chair of the Torrance County Democratic Party, and I was able to meet with mayors from around the state and just communicate about opportunities related to Torrance County and adjacent counties. And so what I've observed is, we have a booming art community here, whether it's related to our children or related to individuals who are actually associated in the arts themselves. And I think here in Torrance County, if we unite that with tourism and we bring that through traffic, not only are we going to see an increase in economy, but we're also going to see an increase in private sales between those artists. So I think that that's one opportunity, really, tourism and art. In addition to that, I think that the agriculture in relation to hemp is a really good initiative. I think that we need to be sure that we're going through and making sure that we're being conscious about our water while approaching that, and making sure that we bring professionals in and the community, kind of tying them together to make sure that what we're looking at in relation to hemp is feasible, because we do know that hemp does kind of burden our water systems, as does every crop, but I think that we need to be conscientious about that. In addition to just general private business along main streets, I think we have a phenomenal opportunity here. I think that through investment and through incentivization of starting up those sustainable main street businesses and promoting our own people to start those businesses through whatever means possible, I definitely think that we will see those opportunities increase further than just the 3 that I listed. And again, to recap, that's local Main Street businesses. That's hemp and other agricultural forms, other forms of the industry. And then in addition to that, tourism and art, which I kind of put together because I think that those will be definitely a good thing. They'll help our state parks. They're going to help Salinas. They're going to help our kids with projects. They're going to help so many different things in relation to those three things that I definitely think that those are the opportunities for Torrance County. And thank you for that question.
So what I didn't hear, and I got to tell you, this is my favorite part of moderating debates. I didn't hear you answer the question, what would you do about it as a county commissioner?
Okay. So sorry about that. As a county commissioner, what I would do is I'd work to find other revenue sources for the county so that we could put together grants for local businesses and business incubators to really get that economy going and get it working out here, because what we're seeing is that a lot of people are moving out. In addition to that, I would work to incentivize a branch of the university to come out here because we have so many bright, intelligent kids, which will also help our economy and help us bring in that revenue that we need. For hemp, I would work with the planning and zoning in addition to other entities to make sure that we're conserving water the best way possible. And I would definitely work to incentivize that and work with USDA's office to provide available programs to farmers, because we see that there is definitely a need for more regenerative practice to help conserve water in relation to evaporation and things like that. Additionally, I would work to create a unified plan between us and other counties to really drive that tourism through in kind of a circular motion to not only help with our local businesses and help in that tourism sector, but also help our artists. Because I think that, Mountain Air being an art hub here in Torrance County, we have a real opportunity with it being tied to Belen that they can come through, they can spend their money there in Mountain Air, buy some art, go back up through the Madrid area, and then go through a whole passport process, which is something that I believe Mayor Nieto is really working on, and I would like to help him in that endeavor, whether through investment or other forms.
Okay, and Javier, why don't you take another little bit of time to talk about this a little bit more too, because I neglected to start the timer on that one, but I feel like Augie had a little bit more time on this one. So why don't you weigh in a little bit? And I've known you for a while, Javier, so I'm gonna ask you to keep it short.
Thank you. So when we talk about these opportunities, what are we going to do with $2.5 million that's coming in from the PILT? What are we going to do with the personnel resources, with the coalitions that I've mentioned? Well, from my perspective, I believe that we're going to invest it. First and foremost, I think we have an emergency services gap in the county that needs to be fully corrected. I think EMS services in the southern part of the county is very, very critical. It's something that would save lives, literally.
Now, let me interrupt you for a minute, because what we're talking about is the biggest opportunity that Torrance County has. So how does a gap in emergency services fit into that?
Well, I feel like the money coming from the PILT, from the renewable, the payment in lieu of taxes, is an opportunity in that funding can be redirected to be utilized to shore up gaps in the county. It's the gaps that tend to hurt us. When we talk about economic development, opportunities that we have there stem from our personnel resources. So, for example, the Estancia Valley the Estancia Valley Heritage Center Committee is a committee that's working on an integrated marketing system based on tourism that links the entire region from Mountain Air to Estancia to Moriarty to Tijeras. And so these initiatives are initiatives that I see our PILT money feeding, so that way we can cast a wide net and really make advances and fill in gaps across the board. We want to be able to work on several issues at once, not just one or two. So I think when you said what are our biggest opportunities, well, it takes money to realize the visions that we have. And I see the PILT as being a tool that we can utilize, while I see the people that we have in our positions of power, in our leadership positions, as being very beneficial and conducive to the progressive thinking that it's going to take and coordination that it's going to take to realize the shared vision that is coming into focus.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. I will get back on the timer. I apologize to you guys. If you saw the pile of screens and stuff I have in front of me, it's like we're gonna launch into space or something. So it's a little bit to keep up with. Let's see. I think this time we're starting with Augustine. Is that right? All right. So this question is a little bit loaded, but that's on purpose. So we're in sort of a new era of, I hesitate to even call it political discourse. It has gotten so nasty and so unpleasant, and with people who seem to think that if you're from a different political party, you're irredeemably stupid or something. And I feel that is really harming our democracy at every level that it occurs. And so the question that I have for you guys is, how important do you think it is to reach across the aisle and to work with people from other political parties? And how would you do this if you are elected? And this might be even a little more important for your district, because you have, political party speaking Democrats are outnumbered on this county commission. So I forgot where we're starting. Augustine, is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so how important is it to reach across the aisle, and how do you do this, and how would you do this if you get elected?
So my campaign's predicated on running on the purpose of bringing hope to our communities, and that's regardless of political party. And yes, I as a Democrat do hold true my values as a Democrat, and they are unwavering. However, when it comes to dealing with people from across the aisle, and I shouldn't even say people from across the aisle because they're our people, we have to understand that yes, we're not going to agree on everything. But even though we disagree from Democrat to Republican on certain things, we cannot let that hinder us. We still have to be able to carry on with the conversation. We still have to be able to pass policy. In addition to that, that was the point of democracy, bringing every view from every walk of life to the table, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. The purpose is for us all to listen and for us all to hear. And so as commissioner, I'm committed to listening and making sure that the policymaking process involves every member of the community. And yes, as I said before, I may not be on board with certain portions of the Republican platform, but that's not my purview. My purview is doing what's best for Torrance County as a whole. And so again, thank you for that question, and thank you for bringing this together today.
So then why don't you give me a little bit more specifics? I hear you say, listen, everybody comes to the table, that kind of thing. But that's pretty general language. And I wonder if you can get a little more specific than that.
Okay. For example, whenever we're conversing issues around planning and zoning, or we're discussing issues around, the Second Amendment, for example, the Torrance County Commission passed the sanctuary county for the red flag law. I disagree. I see it as an Article 10 of the Constitution issue, but if that is something that Republicans in the community see fit, it is my obligation to sit down in a community setting, in a community meeting, and hear, so that way we can have proper argumentation, and in the way that's conducive to both sides, whether you're in the majority or the minority, to be able to plead your. So yeah, just bringing us together and really talking these out and really making sure that everybody's heard on the same agenda.
Okay. All right, thank you. And so Javier, I have the same question for you. How important is it to reach across the aisle and work with people from other political parties? And how do you do that?
Well, in the county commissioner context and in the context of Torrance County, I don't see partisanship as being the issue. I see regionalism as being the issue. So the issue is not one of Republican versus Democrat. It is more of an issue of regionalism. And I think that stems directly from an imbalance that exists on the county commission with regards to representation. So if you look at the county commission and you look at the three positions that are on there, there is only one municipality in this county that has two representatives on the county commission. And that is an imbalance no matter which way you slice it. And that is an imbalance that leads to problems that need to be corrected. And the only way to correct it is to evolve this county commission from a 3-member to a 5-member system that spreads power and shares it, because our mission as Americans is to share power, never ever to concentrate it. And so therefore, as a good American, my mission is to do the very same for Torrance County. And I remain committed to the concept of a 5-member commission for Torrance County, because once again, the issue is not one of partisanship, it is one of regionalism. And I think that, of course, migrating to a 5-member system will allow the region as a whole, Torrance County as a whole, to coalesce and come together in a much easier fashion that subtracts a lot of the polemics from issues and allows us to make decisions based upon information and good information. So that's kind of where I think the issues are. It's not one of partisanship from my perspective, at least in the Torrance County and Commission context.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really interesting idea, and it's something I plan to ask you about a little bit farther along in the conversations. Of why don't we go ahead and switch into that now, which is two-part. I want to ask what your position is on a 5-member commission for Torrance County, if that's something that you would push for if you get elected. You know, when you say that Moriarty has got 2 members representing it, I don't think that's strictly accurate. I don't know if either one of those guys lives within the boundaries of the city. McCall is certainly closer, but if you want to say consolidation of power in the northern end of the district, I think we're on safe ground there. I want to throw in a little bit of a devil's advocate question for you there, and that is most of the population is in the northern end of the district. So how do you balance the needs of a less populated District 3 with the rest of the county? And why don't we, if you think it's appropriate, put that in the context of the 5-member commission? You know, do you think that's a good idea? Would you push for that? So Javier, I believe we're starting with you this time, so go ahead.
I think it took you more than 2 minutes to ask that question, so we're going to need about an hour to answer it.
Yeah, well, that's true with just about
best.
all of these questions, but we'll have to do the best we can.
So, of course, as you can tell, I'm a proponent of the 5-member commission, but I want to note that I'm not alone. I want to note that when this issue came up, I visited with each of the governing bodies of each of the communities in my district, and also in Encino, and also in Moriarty. I went to each of the governing bodies of the school districts, the land grants, and the municipalities to talk to them about it, to give them information about it, to take any questions about it. And we received, those of us who were in favor of moving to a 5-member board, received declarations of support from Encino, from Willard, from Estancia, from Mountain Air, Tajique, Torreón, Manzano, Chilili, in addition to the Estancia School District, as well as the Mountain Air School District. The only dissenter was the city of Moriarty. The only dissenter was the city of Moriarty. And I think that illustrates very clearly, actions speak much louder than words. So it's very clear where the balance of power is, where that imbalance exists at the county commission and down into the power networks that exist in the county. Now, if you'll ask the second part of that question again.
Yeah, what about the other part of the question where, you know, most of the population is up in the northern part of the county?
Well, what we're pushing for, so right now we have 3 commission districts that are balanced based on population. So all 3 districts are equal in terms of numbers, okay? However, what we are looking for is 5 districts that are also equal in population. So we're not talking about adding members in the south or north. What we're talking about is redistricting the county so that we take into account 5 districts. And now we went into a whole process at the county. We had a contractor come in and do a study and present maps. And the final map that 2 of the commissioners felt comfortable with was a map that basically had the city of Moriarty in one. It had the Edgewood area up in one, the area that's just to the east of Edgewood in one. It had the McIntosh area in another. Then it had Estancia, Torreón, and Tajique in one. And then it had Mountain Air, Encino, and Duran. And it came up and touched Klein's Corners in one. So that to us seemed much more balanced because there wasn't a municipality. There wasn't a municipality in which district lines traversed, so that no municipality was left with more with 2 commissioners. See, because right now, for example, the city of Moriarty has, I think, 1,800 people. That's not much more than the town of Estancia. So why does Moriarty get to have 2 commissioners? That's the question.
I still don't think that Moriarty has 2 commissioners, but I understand.
So here's where that comes from. They ought to just to kind of perhaps
okay,
give you some understanding.
You had 4 minutes, so go quick.
Okay. So if you look at the number of stakeholders that each district has, how many stakeholders do I have? I've got 2 school districts. I have 3 land grants and part of a 4th. We have 3 municipalities in addition to Duran and Avo. If you look at District 1, what is the main stakeholder in District 1? It's going to be the city of Moriarty and the Moriarty School District. The rest of it's unincorporated area of the county. So you only have one entity with political organization that's able to leverage and apply any amount of pressure or lobbying. In addition to District 2, you've got the city of Moriarty, you've got the Moriarty School District, and then you have the village of Encino. So you have a little bit more diversity because you have the village of Encino, but still you have the very primary stakeholders in District 1 in District 2, hence the imbalance.
All right. So Agustin, let's go ahead and shift over to you. I'm going to give you 4 minutes.
Well, I won't take up too much.
Where do you come down on a 5-member commission? And do you agree with Javier that the issue in the county is more regional than partisan?
I agree that we do have regional issues. I do think that there is slight partisanship, however, and with the 5-member commission, I do fall in favor of that. I do believe that we do need more commissioners in order to break this silo of power and these power structures. However, I do observe where you were coming from and asking these questions that, it isn't just Moriarty that has the most representation. It's the whole northern portion of the district, and it is partially because of population. But I do agree with Javier, and I've been a proponent of the 5-member commission because I was in these conversations with the land grant, with La Merced de Pueblo de Tajique, which if you don't know, that's the Tajique land grant, when Javier actually came down and had these conversations. And so I can agree with where he is coming from and his statements, though they may not directly align.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's push on. I think it's been a little bit less than an hour. I'd like to keep this recording to be somewhere in the neighborhood of an hour. So let's go back to 1 minute and give me some quick opinions on this. Agustin, I believe we're starting with you this time. We talked about this a little bit already, but what do you think about the future of hemp farming in Torrance County?
I think the future of hemp farming in Torrance County is definitely one of great economic opportunity. I think that if we go about it correctly in relation to water conservation, which is a big thing, not only for District 3, but the entirety of Torrance County and New Mexico, well, actually the Southwest overall. I think that, hemp farming is going to be that great opportunity for us. But again, we need to make sure that we are bringing in professionals in hydrology and water conservation. I mean, I did work there throughout high school and throughout my time here in New Mexico before I left to Alabama. But I think that we need to bring those professionals in, have them communicate with the farmers, and ensure that we're doing the best possible to conserve water and boost that portion of the economy as well.
Okay. Javier, the same same question to you. What's your opinion about the future of hemp farming in Torrance County?
I think hemp is a crop that is very much conducive to the challenging climate in Torrance County. So those of us who farm in Torrance County understand that if you can farm in the Estancia Valley, you can farm anywhere because the climate here is just such a challenge. A short growing season combined with very harsh weather patterns and trends. You can sit out in a day, and in any given day, you'll have rain, you'll have wind, you'll have it all, you'll experience it all in an 8-hour period. And so it's very difficult to farm under those circumstances, in addition to the limits imposed by land scarcity and water scarcity. So we're in a closed basin, which means that water rights, there are no new water rights being issued. And that means that we are always decreasing the number of water rights licensees in the valley. That rate is always dropping. And that's a challenge when you're trying to expand an industry. How can you expand an industry such as agriculture when the number of water rights licenses is contracting? It's very difficult to do. You can't get any more arable land under the plow. And so
at the time. So, but you go next on the next one. So what's your opinion about the future of renewable energy in Torrance County? And I don't want you to talk about the existing and the past of renewable energy, but the future of renewable energy in Torrance County.
I think renewable energy, there are opportunities in it currently. I think there will be opportunities in it for perhaps another decade, 2 decades. In the long term, it may be difficult because renewable energy right now is very much, because its development is very closely tied to industrial revenue bonds. It's very much tied to issues of demand. Any slight uptick or downtick in demand and in price in the general market really reverberates down the line in dramatic ways. So it's kind of like the butterfly flapping his wings, and then a year later you have a hurricane. It's kind of the same situation where you have a very slight fluctuation in the market in California or in another part of the country, and suddenly our payments are endangered, or the rates of price per kilowatt either climbs or falls dramatically. It's a very touchy thing, but I think for the short term, it's going to be of tremendous benefit.
Okay. Augustine, same question for you. What's your opinion about the future of renewable energy in Torrance County?
I think Torrance County has a phenomenal opportunity when it comes to renewable energy. Our future is very bright. However, I do believe that we need to further diversify the economy, because just as Mr. Sanchez is indicating, there are these reverberation effects. And so, though we should be working to induce this investment and this oncoming renewable energy trend, we do need to be conscientious and make sure that our economy isn't cornerstone on that. We've seen that in Estancia, that Estancia is very cornerstone on the prison. And after the prison went under, we lost most of our economy. Estancia went under. And so working to make sure that we're investing in renewable energy consciously and that we have input from the general community in its entirety is what I'm committed to. And I definitely think that with renewable energy, we have a bright future, but I think it needs to be with caution in mind.
All right. Okay. Oh, geez. All right, we're going to do rapid fire. You thought that was a short amount of time. We're going to do 30 seconds. Augie, I think we're starting with you this time. What's the biggest asset that you bring to the job if you get elected?
Energy, charisma, and hope for our communities.
You didn't even need 30 seconds. All right. Javier, same thing for you. If you get elected, what is the biggest asset that you bring to the job?
With regards to any issue, I think the most important thing is bringing people together. I think as public servants, we have to exemplify leadership. We have to exemplify deliberate moving at a deliberate pace to accomplish goals, because we know that government is very glacial in its movements. But I think if we're able to move deliberately and as a group, we're able to accomplish things. So I think bringing people together is a very important aspect of my style of leadership.
All right. I had another question, but I think we've already answered it. So I'm going to end with my stock question for you guys at the end of one of these interviews. And Javier, I believe we're starting with you this time. So the question is, have you ever been convicted of a crime?
No.
Augustine, same question for you. Have you ever been convicted of a crime?
No, ma'am.
All right. With that, let's move on to the very end of our forum here. So I want to really thank both of you guys for taking times out of your busy day. I know if your day has been anything like mine is, that was a challenge for you. So thank you for doing that. We'll finish by giving each of you 3 minutes to make a concluding statement, make your pitch to the voters, and then we'll wrap it up. So I believe we started with Javier at the beginning. So Augustine, you'll have the chance to go first here now.
Well, I'd like to start off by saying thank you guys again for putting this together there at the Independent. I'd also like to say, we're united. We as one community under this campaign are united in the movement that we are starting for our communities. We've seen things like economy, education, environment, water, really hampered. And so I, as a candidate for you guys, am running to make sure that you guys are contacted, make sure that you guys are involved, and that you guys are engaged. Because it's important that whenever we are doing these things, that you're not just going through the systematics of it, but that people are learning and that people are actually incorporated in the process. And this campaign has been incredibly humbling for Torrance County Commission District 3, because I've been able to talk to members in our communities, been able to truly understand the complexities of the issues that we face. And I, Augustine Montoya, would like to conclude with a poem that actually I found and I referenced in the beginning, which it goes like this. The souls of my ancestors peer out from behind my mask of skin, and through my memories, they live again. Never forget where you came from. This is my home. This is where I was born, where I was raised, and Torrance County will be the place where I will take my last breath. I'm here for you guys, the member of the communities. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at my website, email, or phone number, which are on my Facebook. Thank you again, Leota, and thank you to the Independent for putting this together. Remember the hope, people.
Thank you very much. All right, Javier, go ahead with your concluding statement.
So I've addressed the public on many occasions. Anyone reading the newspaper with you would know that I've been putting editorials in the paper, I think probably for a good while now, years. And I've always been a participant and had some interest in local governance. I've always been interested in community building, kind of trying to make a difference in the community for the better. And so I don't need a precedent upon which to address the public. I think there must be no misunderstanding between the public and the public official. What I want to make clear to the public is over the last 4 years, I'll never forget when I was elected 4 years ago, and the commitment I made to the job, and none of that's changed. I have sought at every opportunity to make gains on the issues as I perceive them being of benefit to the community. And the community knows very well that I have done the utmost to reach out to them and to speak to the communities that I represent, every single one, whether it be a land grant, a municipality, a school district, or even an unincorporated area of the county. The responsibility of the office that I currently hold has not been lost upon me. The importance of that responsibility, the responsibility that such an office enjoins. We are in this position as safeguards, as beacons of hope, perhaps. And so I certainly hope I have prioritized the issues that I presented on my platform 4 years ago, whether it be moving the county to 5 members, the identification of economic development goals where there aren't any, whether it be reforming the solid waste authority, whether it be an expansion of emergency services, measures increasing accountability in government, measures increasing the propensity for the possibility of public participation in meetings. I think I will continue to serve sincerely and wholeheartedly towards the gradual achievement of the change that we seek. And that
All right.
the public can count on.
All right. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
I'll bring that back. All right. So just to wrap it up, we did not have with us here today Santiago Garcia. That is almost undoubtedly my fault. I hope you will take the opportunity to find out about his candidacy as well if you're in the public. I'm planning a second forum this afternoon for the Republican candidates for this same race. That'll be at 4:30, so you can tune into that. And don't forget to go vote. Election day is June 2nd, next Tuesday, and early voting is ongoing. So if you have not already done so, exercise your right to vote. And with that, I'm going to say thank you to both of you guys, both for running and for taking the time to be with us here today. So that's it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.